citizens of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. I have come to you this morning in my capacity as Minister of National Security of the Government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. There is in the public domain, as I come to you, a tremendous amount of discussion around a matter that was recently treated with by the courts of Trinidad and Tobago, a matter arising from police action against one Brent Thomas and the company, Brent Thomas being the first named claimant in the matter. As the country is by now aware, there has been for a long time serious disquiet and concern about the entire operation of the Firearms Act of Trinidad and Tobago, Chapter 1601. That disquiet led to several investigations into the operations of the Firearms Act of Trinidad and Tobago, with particular reference to the licensing regime, its management, its administration, and the results of all that flowed from it within recent years. That disquiet led to several investigations, one of which was an audit report into the firearms regime by a team as appointed by the government of Trinidad and Tobago. That matter was dealt with by the courts of Trinidad and Tobago, and based on court orders, are still achieving the attention of the Commissioner of Police. While all of that was happening, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service Act allows the Commissioner and her officers to conduct investigations in their legal mandate to prevent, to detect, and to prosecute crimes generally. So with all of the discussion and all of the court processes, the police continue, as they must under law, to do their work, carry out police operations, all designed to keep the safe and secure for the benefit and use of all of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. There are ongoing investigations in this regard. There have been, some have led to charges, others are at various stages, and I can't comment too much upon them. Those are matters for the police. And as far as I'm aware, though, there are ongoing investigations into issues pertaining to firearms and the Firearms Act, where the police, in their mandate, has every right and every reason to look at that law to see whether its provisions are being upheld or whether they are being breached, and the reason for their breach or reasons involving issues around corruption. That is the mandate of the police, and that has those daily operational issues from the police service has absolutely nothing to do with the Minister of National Security. As I have been making clear before this nation, time and time again within recent times, I know what my responsibilities are, and I carry them out to the best of our ability with the full support of the Cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago in this regard, in terms of providing resources and the other things that a minister has responsibility for. But recently, there was this matter with Mr. Brent Thomas as the first claimant, a matter on which the court pronounced, and the court made its observations, and the matters arising from that will continue to attract the attention of the lawyers lawyers for the state, who I might tell you have been directed by the police to conduct an appeal in that matter, and that is a matter for the lawyers and for the police. As I indicated, the police has several reasons to be looking at the Firearms Act and its application and its administration in Trinidad and Tobago. From the little facts known to me, having read the judgment and having exposure to some of the facts in other ways, it appears that the police, operating under the ambit of the Firearms Act, conducting its routine daily police operations as it does, would have had reason to engage Mr. Thomas and his company. They would be doing so on the basis of their legal advice, advice from the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, and they conducted their daily operations in that regard, leading to charges against Mr. Thomas. Mr. Thomas, as is within his right, issued through his attorneys challenges to what the police have done, seeking relief from the court in constitutional issues and otherwise, and those are the matters that the court pronounced upon recently. From the little information available to me, the police would have obtained warrants, and they would have gone to the home and offices of the claimant. They would have found things that, according to the police, that were prohibited items, namely automatic firearms and hand grenades, so-called. And on the basis of those, the police took the action that it took. It had nothing to do with me as minister, the Prime Minister, or the cabinet. That was police carrying out its police operations in the way it does. The court pronounced upon those claims by the claimant, and it made certain orders, including the fact that these items should be returned to the claimant, and that, of course, will be one of the bases of the appeal, as I have been told by the police, because if they are prohibited items, they ought not ordinarily to be in the hands of anyone, including firearm dealers that are licensed under Chapter 1601 of the police of the laws of Trinidad and Tobago, the Firearms Act. And to import explosives, which grenades are, you have to be licensed under 1602, which is the Explosives Act. The police, acting in accordance with an observation of both those laws, found on its own independent professional assessment that they could lay charges, and they did that. They would have gotten the benefit of legal advice from their lawyers and the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, and they would have done that. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason why I'm before you now is because there are many persons in this country who apparently do not understand the role and functions of the police service, the role and function of the Minister of National Security, the role and function of the government. And there are some politicians, parliamentarians on the other side of where I sit in the House and in the Senate, who play on the ignorance of the citizens and have been trying in their weekend escapades, and even in the Parliament, as happened last Friday, to move seamlessly between what the police do and what they, according to them, the government do. And I heard one of their presenters, two actually, moving seamlessly, interchanging police with government, without educating you, without being honest, without being truthful, and pointing out that there's a difference between the both, and police action is police action, and governmental action is governmental action. And I'm here this morning to say all that I just told you about, and that you know about, in relation to the matters before the court, flowing from police action, was exclusively that. Actions, operations by the police, into which I, as minister, the Prime Minister, the government, had absolutely no part. Last Friday, I heard one of them, as I told you, presenting, and they have a crime plan. And what have they been doing all along? Well, I interpret that they to mean the police. Ask the police that. But in the same breath, going ahead with the Member of Parliament and the Minister of Government. And that is the deceit and the deception that I am here to clarify for the benefit, the edification of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. I have already long observed that right now we are in a fight for the soul of Trinidad and Tobago. And I do not say that lightly. I say that because I see every one of our state institutions under severe attack. Attacked by criminals who lobby and who influence people who hold high office in this country. The police service is under serious attack. The judiciary is under attack. The laws of Trinidad and Tobago are under attack. The Constitution is under attack. The cabinet is under attack. Criminals are on the warpath with you, Trinidad and Tobago. We have seen the cabinet infiltrated in this country, infiltrated, carrying out the obvious expectations and desires of those who ran corruption in this country, whether it was at the airport or otherwise. We saw Clause 34 becoming a Section 34. And a few days later, we had to go to Parliament on a Saturday and unanimously repeal that clause because it proved that it had created an opportunity for a few persons to walk through and avoid justice and attack on the criminal justice system. And the criminals have friends everywhere in this country. They have them in the police service. They have them in the customs, in the immigration, in the defense force. They have them in the judiciary. They have them in the parliament. One judge, former judge, referred to some of what happened as a well-oiled criminal enterprise. And as a Minister of National Security, as a parliamentarian, as a person who has access to some of the facts, I have deep concerns. But my duty, the government's duty, is to protect the people of Trinidad and Tobago from those who are about to attack it and dismantle everything in order to favor criminals. In the judgment of which I spoke, I have read it, and I have seen myself as a practicing attorney, and I've already indicated to you, members of the public, that the Attorney General is in the process of further investigating these matters to the extent that he can. The police commissioner is engaged in investigating these matters as much as she must. And where an appeal or appeals will have to be filed, they will be filed. But I came here today to say, as I conclude, that there are parliamentarians, those who ought to know better, who, taking this state of affairs, want to convert it from normal, everyday police actions and operations and lay it at the feet of the Minister of National Security and the government, the executive, the cabinet, and that ought not to be allowed to stand. Hence the reason for my intervention this morning. Police operations, police investigations into the Firearms Act, its administration, its operation is well underway, and those will continue. I do not get involved in them, neither any member of the government. Those are police operations. What I do is urge the police to ensure that whatever it does, and I have always done so as Minister of National Security, and always, even as a former police officer, urge the police service to carry out without fear, without stumble, the work that you must do under the law, but do so in accordance with all of the laws of Trinidad and Tobago and in observation of the tenets of the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. There are others who feel they have to benefit from this Brent Thomas thing. I've seen calls for all kinds of things in the newspapers. With the little facts available to me, members of the public, I know why you are hearing very loud voices. But as I told you, all police operations and investigations are ensuing, and they will continue. There are those who feel that they could capitalize on the judge's comments to their own advantage and benefit. That is all right. And I urge the police to continue doing its work in accordance with the mandate in front of it. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon, Trinidad and Tobago. I'm Mahalia Joseph Wharton, and this is TTT News at noon. Topping the news at this time. The 60th anniversary celebrations of diplomatic relations between Japan and Trinidad and